all elections, including elections for employee representation, shall be by secret ballot, because the right to a secret ballot is sacred. Well, it passed here in 2010. You guys went and ratified it. I don't know if you remember that or not, but in November 2010, you went to the polls and you voted and you ratified it. Well, Utah became the first state in the nation to do this, and 11 other states jumped on board and started trying to pass it, and some other states got it through. Card check is dead. Washington, D.C. is not even talking about it anymore. So that was very significant, very tough piece of legislation to get through. But if there's one crown jewel in the legislation that I've been involved in since I've been elected, it was a three-page piece of legislation that is having a tremendous impact nationally right now. You see, 2 years ago, Congress was talking about taking over health care. They were talking about passing Obamacare. And so I'm the founder of a small organization. It's actually expanded to where it's a national organization called the Patrick Henry Caucus. The Patrick Henry Caucus is dedicated to defending state sovereignty and pushing back against the federal government. Senator Aaron Osmond is now in the leadership of the Patrick Henry Caucus here in Utah. So we founded this organization, and as the leader of the Patrick Henry Caucus, I drafted a 3-page bill that said this. It said two things. If Congress passes Obamacare, it will not be recognized in the state of Utah until the legislature gives approval, number one. Number two, no citizen in the state of Utah will be forced to purchase health care insurance or be considered a criminal. Because that's what happens when Obamacare takes full effect. You will be required to purchase health care insurance, or the IRS will have the authority to come after you. Well, I don't know if you followed me much in politics or not, but I have a reputation of being, pretty conservative and standing up for what I believe in. Well, the Democrats, in this case, they ripped me apart. They said, this is a worthless message bill. Just a message bill. This bill will do nothing. Congress hasn't even passed Obamacare yet. Well, I put inside the bill something that is very unique. Now stay with me because this is important. We put in the bill what's called an immediate effective date. What that means is that if it passes in the House with 2/3 and passes in the Senate with 2/3 vote, upon signature of the governor, it takes immediate effect. Okay, Obamacare passes. Obama signs the bill. 26 states file a lawsuit against Obamacare. We're part of that lawsuit. We filed in Florida, the federal court in Florida. Immediately, the federal government filed a motion to dismiss, saying the states don't have standing because no state in the union had a law on the books before Obamacare passed and was signed into law. The judge took that under advisement, and 8 months ago, he came out with his ruling. And this is what he said. This is what happened. March 23rd of 2010, President Obama signed the Obamacare into law. March 22nd, the day before, Governor Herbert signed my bill into law. The judge ruled that Utah had standing because we had a law on the books. And because Utah had standing, all 26 states had standing. The judge then ruled that Obamacare was unconstitutional. He threw the entire thing out. It has been appealed and is now in the United States Supreme Court, where they've started taking briefs over Obamacare, and they have said they will rule by spring of this year, and we're going to win. It was an amazing day to see the decision by Judge Roger Vinson, a federal judge in Florida, quote from the bill that I drafted and passed here in Utah. A little flyover state, Utah, and Idaho had standing as well because they had done the same thing. They carried the day for the rest of the nation. That was a very, very, let me just say this. I come from a humble background, middle class, blue collar guy, street cop my entire life. Never in a million years did I ever imagine I'd be involved in something so big and significant, and so much bigger than myself. I'm running for Congress because it's time we sent a fighter back to Washington, D.C. I'm going to Washington, D.C. because the American dream is slipping through the hands of everyday Americans, and it's not because of any decisions that you have made, it's not because of anything you have done. It is because of decisions made by bureaucrats thousands of miles away. And that is wrong. I'm going back to Washington, D.C. to make some serious changes and to help make serious changes. I want to highlight just 3 things that I want to do. There's a ton of things that I want to do, but I just want to highlight 3. First thing I want to do is I want to get control of our budget. Our debts and our deficits are out of control. $16 trillion in debt. We're spending $1.5 trillion more every single year than we bring in as a nation. That's stunning. Stunning, and it's unsustainable. I want to go back to Washington, D.C. and pass a balanced budget amendment that forces Congress to get its house in order. A balanced budget amendment that cuts the budget, caps the budget, and requires a 2/3 majority vote to increase taxes. That will be my first action as your congressman. I want to deregulate. I want to bring jobs back to this country. I hear all the time people complain about the jobs that are going overseas. Well, let me tell you, that bothers me too. Some people blame the businessman. I don't. I blame the federal government who has taxed and regulated the businesses to the point where they have to make a decision. Leave the country or go out of business. I'll tell you, no business person should ever be faced with that decision. We need to free up our markets, return to a market that is free and where business people are able to create jobs and are able to create wealth. You see, it wasn't government regulation that made America great. It was the fact that we as individual citizens were able to innovate, were able to work, were able to create, and be able to keep the fruits of our labor. That's what made America great. So I want to deregulate. Finally, I want to push power back down to the states. We've gotten to the point in this country where the federal government is so big, so intrusive, and so involved that the states are really just subjects to the federal government. I want to return power to the states. When I tell you that I am going to Washington, D.C., not to gain power, not to gain influence, but to lose power and to deregulate, I mean it. I want to go back and return this government to a balanced position where the founding fathers had intended it to be, where the states and the federal government were co-equals in protecting what? Your rights. Because it's all about you and your individual rights. Those are my top 3 priorities. There are several things that I want to discuss and several things I want to talk about, but I want to give you a chance now to ask questions. I want to give you a chance to ask whatever is on your mind. Yes, ma'am.
A couple of things. I must say I really like what your plans are. It's refreshing to hear that you've really got some ideas that I think will help a lot that I haven't heard yet. So that was one thing. On each of your little signs up there, the number 3 on each of them, you say eliminate tax penalties for bringing foreign products home.
Yes.
I think I know what you mean, but could you address that a little bit?
Absolutely. It's called tax-free repatriation. And what it is it simply says, look, it's the federal government saying, you know what, we admit it, we screwed up. We regulated and taxed you out of the country. You left. Please come back.
Now, is this businesses and personal, or businesses in particular?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Please come back to the country. Bring your profit that you've made overseas back to the country, because think of how great. And that would be a real stimulus, not phony, QE2, quantitative easing, printing of money stimulus. This is real stimulus. Bring your money back. We will not tax it. Bring it and help create jobs. Put America back to work. That's what that is. And number 3 over here, merit pay for Congress. That deals with the budget as well. Let me tell you, part of the reason that there is this gaping chasm between citizen and congressman is because they don't live like we do. Think about it. They don't have the same fears that you do. Okay? When I go to Congress and I have been there 5 years, guess what I get? I get guaranteed taxpayer subsidized retirement. Thank you. That's not right. It's not right. I'm committing to you, and I'm committing on camera, and I'm committing in front of everyone that when I go to Congress, I am going to opt out of the guaranteed taxpayer pension. I'm going to take that money and I will invest in a private 401k like the rest of you, because I need to know that the decisions I'm making not only affect you, but they also affect me. Whereas right now, that's not the case. Merit pay for Congress is this. We would attach their pay to the economy. Very simple. I'm very straightforward thinking. But here's my proposal. And in fact, no one has even been discussing this until recently. And just recently, a blogger from Washington, D.C. posted about merit pay for Congress. Great. So we're making some progress. Here's what it is. Any year, plain and simple, any year that Congress spends more than 18% GDP, we cut their pay to minimum wage.
I love it.
You do that and then tell me that they will not make sure that they watch over the stewardship we've given them. Okay? It's merit pay for Congress. We hear about merit pay for teachers. Any teachers in here? No?
My wife's a teacher.
Okay. Well, we hear about merit pay for teachers all the time, right? Well, how about merit pay for lawmakers? That's what that is. What are the questions you have?
Could you tie that to a balanced budget also?
You could. The only problem is it's hard enough to get a balanced budget amendment through. If you tie too many things to it, it won't get through. And I think that is critical. It's absolutely critical. So I would actually put it as a separate proposal.
And if they don't balance, they don't get paid.
Great idea. And if they don't create a budget, are we going in what, 1,000 days without Congress setting a budget?
The House,
Great idea.
without the Senate setting.
Yeah, sure. Yes, sir.
The question, well, what I'm wondering about is, what have you been doing? Because you've been in the state legislature for how long?
5 years.
So what's been your occupation then?
Yeah.
Because
So-
that's not a paid position, right?
No, the legislature is paid, but it's part-time.
Right. You get some sort of stipend.
You do, and quite frankly, can I just be very honest, I think that we need to move Congress to that type of system, okay? I would like to see Congress move to part-time, where they go back for a period of time, then they come back and they work real jobs and live in the real world, dealing with the laws that they make, okay? I am still a part-time reserve police officer. I've stayed in law enforcement so that when I'm done playing politician, I can go back to police work, because police work is my heart and soul. Service to the community is my heart and soul. In 2002, I started a security consulting company called Zion's Defense Institute. It's been shortened now to ZDI. We started just doing concealed weapon permit training and tactical training. We've expanded into corporate consulting. We do corporate consulting, security consulting, corporate consulting for businesses. It's myself. It's a very small business. Myself, family member, my wife. We have 4 or 5 part-time employees that help us with different projects. That's what we do. Yeah.
Sorry, I have got another question. And what you were just saying about a police officer, tell me what you think about the TSA.
Oh, very good. Great question. Last year, I drafted a piece of legislation that would have prohibited TSA pat-downs without reasonable suspicion. Okay? It's very simple. As a cop, I can, let's just say, as a cop, I can come up to you and say, if you're doing nothing wrong, I can come up and talk to you, say, how are you doing, sir? And guess what? You can turn around and walk away. And I can't detain you. I have to have, in order to come up to you and stop you and actually pat you down, I have to have reasonable suspicion that you are in the process of committing a crime, have committed a crime, or are about to commit a crime. I have to have articulatable facts that I can articulate in a report and in court. In TS, when you're going through the airport, they don't need anything, and they can pat you down. So I authored a piece of legislation that would have prohibited TSA from doing that. Because I resigned, I turned it over to Representative Wayne Harper, who is a representative in West Jordan. And honestly, I don't know where the bill is at this point. Have you seen Sally yet? No, okay. So that's where it is now. But it's very similar to what Texas was doing.
So what would you do as congressman?
As congressman, I'll tell you, end game, I would like to, let me tell you what my ideal airport security is. There's very few things in this country, in my opinion, that the free market will not solve. Okay? So if you were to allow the airports, the airlines, dictate their own security, the free market would take